My family called me the thrift store girl for years. As I became a millionaire, they begged me for $450,000. I turned them down and walked away forever. I realized early on that I was the family letdown. My name is Claire Thompson, and I've spent my whole life being the punchline to my family's failure jokes. My sister Olivia has the beauty, the charm, and presumably all the brain cells as well. According to our mother, I received hand-me-downs and lessons on being realistic. My moniker began when I was 16 years old. Olivia required a dazzling and pricey homecoming outfit from Nordstrom. I needed new clothing for school because I had outgrown everything during the summer. Mom brought us both shopping, but our budget only went so far. Olivia went away with a $250 outfit that she had worn once. I was dropped off at Goodwill with $50 and instructed to make it work. That day, I bought a vintage leather jacket for $10 that was real leather and had scarcely been used. I was quite proud of it. I wore it to school the next Monday, and when I returned home, Olivia was laughing with her pals in the living room. She noticed me and exclaimed loudly, "Look everybody, it's the thrift store girl. Did you get a good deal on those sad little secondhand dreams?" Her pals laughed. Mom, who was in the kitchen, did not say anything to protect me. Dad was on a business trip, which was essentially his constant status. The name stayed. Olivia used family meals, holidays and odd Tuesday nights to put me in my place. Out comes the thrift store girl. I grew strong skin out of necessity. While Olivia pledged sororities at USC and posted countless photographs of beach parties, I worked 2 jobs to pay for community college. My tiny apartment smelled like the Indian restaurant downstairs. I ate ramen and learned how to hem my own clothing. Nobody was handing me anything, so every dime counted. My parents paid for Olivia's whole schooling. When I asked if they might assist with even a semester's tuition, Dad mumbled something about teaching me the importance of hard work. Olivia had already received her degree on a silver platter, but I obviously needed character development. I majored in computer science since I excelled at it and the jobs paid well. My classmates were chatting, but I was coding. I constructed websites for small businesses, developed applications, and studied all I could about software development. I finished with honors and no debt, which felt like winning a secret battle. My first serious work was with a tech startup in Austin. The compensation was reasonable, and I could finally breathe without having to check my bank account every 5 minutes. I rented a 1-bedroom apartment and purchased my first new clothing in years. I posted a snapshot to the family chat, proud of my small place. Olivia commented, "Cute. Very minimalist. I guess thrift store furniture is making a comeback." She had purchased everything new. The remark hurt less than it might have years ago, but it still hit. I'd relocated 500 miles away for work, but also to avoid the continual comparisons. Austin seemed like a fresh start, a place where no one recognized me as the disappointed daughter. I could simply be Claire, the coder who writes clean code and meets deadlines. My flat was in a development close to the office. Nothing fancy, just mine. My balcony overlooked a courtyard where other young professionals gathered on weekends. I gradually gained acquaintances at work, largely co-workers who loved my dry sense of humor and knew nothing about my home dynamics. When asked about my background, I remained evasive. Parents live in California, and one sibling is not very close. The startup culture was strong and thrilling. We had ping-pong tables and complimentary food, yes, but we also had a mission. Everyone there thought we were creating something significant. Late nights seemed more like investments than sacrifices. I was learning from folks who had previously sold firms and knew the game we were playing. I began saving aggressively. Every payday, I estimated the precise amount I needed for rent, electricity, food, and a modest amusement budget. Everything else was either saved or invested. My coworkers thought I was paranoid. They spent money on excellent dinners and weekend getaways. I recalled being broke too well to be reckless with money. Around this time, Olivia revealed her pregnancy. The family discussion erupted with delight. Mom was ecstatic about becoming a grandma. Dad started discussing legacy and family continuity. I gave Olivia my congrats and a gift card, which she accepted with a generic thank you. Days later, the baby shower was held in California. I couldn't afford the airline ticket, the present, and the time off from work, so I opted to work. Olivia sent images from the occasion, including extravagant decor, fancy baby outfits, and a cake that likely cost more than my monthly grocery budget. Mom remarked on each shot, saying how lovely everything was and how lucky they were. I worked extra hours that weekend and accomplished a big portion of a tough job. My boss noticed. That notification resulted in increased responsibility, more money, and more prospects. I met Daniel Stevens, one of the company's co-founders at the startup. He was intelligent, uncomfortable, and absolutely preoccupied with creating software to improve data security. I started as a junior developer, but Daniel saw something about my work. Within a year, I was managing my own staff. Within 2 years, I had become his professional partner in many aspects. Daniel resembled me of myself in several ways, underappreciated and motivated by something deeper than money. He was the strange kid in school, the one who programmed instead of socializing. His parents had intended him to become a doctor. He disappointed them when he dropped out of medical school to establish a technology firm. We connected over familial expectations and the freedom to disappoint folks who never truly knew us. Our working connection was purely chemistry-based. He'd draw impossible concepts on whiteboards, and I'd find out how to make them happen. We complemented each other, his vision, mine execution. The rest of the squad noticed. They began dubbing us the Brain Trust, which was both flattering and little obnoxious. We worked 80-hour weeks. We survived on coffee and resolve. Brian had the vision, but I had the practical ability to make it happen. Our software was excellent, it was revolutionary. Companies began licensing it. Contracts that were formerly small become larger. Tech behemoths started paying heed. Daniel and I celebrated at a dive bar when a Fortune 500 firm licensed our software for the first time. We were not champagne people. We ordered whiskey and sat in a booth that smelled like decades of spilled beer, laughing at each other like idiots. "We've done it," he remarked. "We built something that mattered." "Your family must be proud," Daniel remarked, somewhat inebriated. I laughed. "They don't really understand what I do. My sister thinks I fix computers." "Seriously?" She once asked me if I could help her printer connect to Wi-Fi. When I tried to explain what I truly do, she became bored and switched the topic to her kitchen makeover. Daniel shakes his head. "My parents still ask when I'm going back to medical school. Some people can't see past their own expectations." We clinked glasses to that, to being seen by those who mattered, even if our families weren't there. As the firm expanded, so did my role. I wasn't only coding anymore, I was making strategic decisions, employing teammates, and negotiating contracts. Daniel absolutely trusted me, therefore I had equity that mirrored my worth. When we finalized the ownership structure, I ended up owning 40% of the firm. Daniel had 40%. The remaining 20% will be shared amongst early investors and important workers. I didn't tell my family anything about work, and why should I? Every time I cited an achievement, Olivia found a way to undermine it. When I informed them that I had been promoted to senior developer, she announced her engagement to Adam Walker, whose father controlled a chain of auto dealerships. The talk quickly turned to her princess-cut diamond and her wedding preparations. The interaction occurred in my second year at the startup. Olivia revealed it in the family chat, sharing a snapshot of her hand with a massive ring, at least 2 carats, possibly 3. Adam proposed on a beach trip in Maui, dropping down on one knee at twilight as a photographer documented the scene. The photographs were properly altered and uploaded within hours. Mom called me crying with joy. "Your sister is so blessed," she kept repeating. "Adam is such a catch. He's going to take such good care of her." I was troubleshooting a serious system breakdown when she phoned. I had 3 developers waiting for my feedback and a customer presentation in 2 hours. I said, "Congratulations." And then I had to go. Mom expressed disappointment because I wasn't more thrilled. The fact was that I felt nothing. Olivia's happiness had lost meaning to me somewhere along the road. Her life was hers. It was my. The only intersection was obligation. I went to the wedding alone. I was 25, wearing a dress I had purchased fresh from a department shop, and I still felt invisible. Olivia's bridesmaids were all sorority sisters who appeared to have walked out of a magazine. I sat at a table with distant relatives who had spent the whole reception on their phones. The wedding was held at a resort in Napa Valley, with 3 days of celebrations leading up to the ceremony. I could only afford to attend the wedding itself, flying in Saturday morning and departing right from the reception that evening. I missed the welcoming supper and the morning after breakfast. No one appeared to notice. The ceremony was gorgeous, but in an overpriced, impersonal manner. White flowers everywhere, accompanied by a string quartet. Olivia looked lovely in a couture gown that was probably more expensive than my vehicle. Adam sobbed as she walked down the aisle, which the cameraman filmed from several perspectives. I sat 17 rows back on the bride's side, between a great aunt who kept inquiring who I was and a family acquaintance whom I'd never met. Olivia walked by on her way down the aisle, and her gaze swept over me. I don't think she even realized I was there. During the toasts, Olivia's maid of honor discussed how Olivia was always meant for success, knowing precisely what she wanted and how to attain it. Dad's toast highlighted how proud he was of his accomplished daughters, but he only provided instances of Olivia. Mom shed tears of delight. I sipped champagne and pondered why I had bothered to come. The celebration was held in a vineyard with golden hour lighting, which made everything appear like a movie. I attempted to socialize, but I kept finding myself in discussions where I was the odd one out. Olivia's pals discussed spinning lessons and vacation houses. Adam's family talked about golf handicaps and investment properties. I nursed my drink while checking my phone for business emails to keep myself occupied. At some time, a groomsman approached me. He was inebriated yet nice, asking how I knew the pair. When I told him I was Olivia's sister, he seemed shocked. Really? She never mentioned having a sister. We're not close, I said. He nodded as if it explained everything and went on to find someone more fascinating to chat to. I departed during the dance, stating I had to catch a flight. Nobody attempted to stop me. I got an Uber to the airport, changed into comfy clothing and a toilet, and worked on coding for a project due Monday as I waited for my red-eye flight. It was a better use of my time than trying to enjoy a party where I didn't fit in. Flying back to Austin, I felt relieved. I had completed my familial commitment. I had shown up. I had been nice. Now I could return to my normal life. The one I was creating. Brick by brick, the one that truly mattered. I texted Olivia from the airport with another congrats. She answered with the heart emoji. This was the extent of our conversation. Olivia revealed her first pregnancy about 8 months after the wedding. By then, she'd completely committed to being a lifestyle influencer, chronicling everything online, including gender reveal parties, nursery design blogs, and pregnancy photo shoots. Her pregnancy was a meticulously planned performance. She had Ella in the summer, and her birth announcement received thousands of likes. I gave a gift of useful baby goods from the registry. Olivia shared a boilerplate thank you story on Instagram, identifying everyone who had contributed presents. I wasn't sure whether she knew which products came from me directly. Being underrated means that no one pays attention to you. While my family was obsessed with Olivia's Instagram perfect existence, I was creating something genuine. Daniel and I had created software that was receiving significant attention. Technology businesses were no longer merely licensing it. They wanted to purchase the entire firm. 3 months after the wedding, I received a call from Daniel around midnight. A prominent firm wanted to speak with us about a potential purchase. He could scarcely speak, his voice quivering with excitement and dread. We had anticipated this moment, but the combination of theoretical potential and actuality seemed different. We met with their team the next week. Corporate executives in fancy suits address technical inquiries and make financial estimates. Daniel addressed the vision questions. I handled the technical aspects and actual execution. We were a good squad. By the end of the meeting, they were more intrigued than when we began. The paperwork began to pour, including NDAs, tentative offers, and due diligence demands. Our lawyer, a lady Daniel had previously dealt with, guided us through each stage. She was forthright about the odds. Most acquisitions failed. Don't get excited until the money's in the bank, she told me. I took her counsel. I did not inform my relatives. I didn't inform my buddies. I merely kept working, living in my tiny apartment, and saving money like I always had. If the deal went through, that's excellent. If it didn't, I'd still have a nice career and shares in a rising firm. I was 26 years old when I received the first serious offer. $14 million. Daniel and I both owned 40% of the firm, while the other 20% was distributed among early investors. My portion would be worth $5.5 million. I couldn't grasp the number. It felt like monopolistic money. Daniel wanted to wait. He believed we could construct something larger. I trusted his instincts. It had been correct about everything else. We rejected the offer and continued working. 6 months later, another offer came in. $22 million, then $32 million. We repeatedly said no. Every rejection seemed like a gamble. What if we reached our peak? What if we turned away life-changing funding only to see the firm fail? I stayed up several nights crunching numbers, calculating how long $5.5 million would last, and how different my life could be. But Daniel's confidence was contagious. He gave me predictions, market research, and growth possibilities. Our software was becoming the industry standard. Companies didn't merely license it. They built entire security systems around it. We were becoming crucial. That meant leverage. We hired a CFO who has experience with successful exits. She was in her 50s, as sharp as a razor, and would not take any crap from anyone. She examined our records, contracts, and development trajectory, and declared us fools for thinking anything less than $37 million. You're not just selling software, she explained. You're selling the future of data security. Price accordingly. This is what we did. When the next offer came in at $40 million, we replied at $80 million. They laughed. We walked away. 3 corporations were interested by then, implying rivalry. Competition meant better terms. I was still living in my little apartment. I still browsed sales. The money was imaginary, attached to a corporation that existed mostly as code and contracts. My family had no knowledge since I never informed them. What was the point? They had already determined who I was. Olivia had resigned her marketing career following the wedding. Adam's family money meant she didn't need to work. She spent her days practicing yoga, having her nails done, and sharing her wonderful life on social media. Mom would send me Olivia's posts with captions like, "Your sister looks so happy." The inference was obvious. Olivia had triumphed at life, but I was still fighting. Olivia's second kid, Jacob, was born by this point. 2 children before the age of 30, both planned and fully publicized on social media. Her life appeared flawless, at least in the meticulously managed squares of Instagram. Beautiful home, lovely children, and gorgeous apparel. She'd become a lifestyle influencer with a small following, receiving free things in exchange for postings. What I didn't realize was that Adam's financial condition wasn't as steady as it looked. Adam's father had many dealerships, but he insisted on owning his own location to show himself. He'd taken out large amounts to invest in a franchise, sure he could make it lucrative. When things began to go wrong, his pride prevented him from asking his father for aid. However, I would not discover any of this until much later. I watched from a distance, enthralled and repulsed. How much of it was real? Did she truly adore the life she portrayed? Or was she trapped in the same way I had been, performing for an audience that expected perfection I didn't want? We scarcely communicated outside of the traditional Christmas texts. She was preoccupied with her wonderful existence. I was engaged creating something tangible. That Christmas, Mom attempted to plan a family meeting. I rejected, citing job constraints. It was somewhat true. We were in the midst of heated negotiations, but largely I didn't want to spend a week watching Olivia's highlight reel and being reminded of my own perceived incompetence. Mom was hurt. She sent a long email on how important family is, how I should not let work rule my life, and how I was losing out on witnessing my niece and nephew grow up. She made no mention of the fact that I had only met Jacob twice, both of which were quick encounters. She didn't add that Olivia had never inquired about my life, or indicated an interest in seeing me. It appeared like I was solely responsible for maintaining family connections. I did not answer to your email. I worked through Christmas and was happy with it. Thanksgiving that year was very harsh. Olivia and Adam had recently purchased a house in a gated neighborhood. She spent the entire evening discussing crown molding and granite countertops. When Mom inquired about my life, I answered that we were in acquisition discussions. "That's nice, dear," Mom remarked ambiguously. "Olivia, tell us more about the master bathroom renovation." I stopped attempting to explain after that. The last bid arrived in February, $80 million for the entire deal. Daniel contacted me at 11 p.m., his voice trembling. The purchasers were serious. They wanted our software, personnel, and vision. This was it. The moment we'd been working towards for 6 years. My portion would be $34 million. After taxes and repaying early investors who had chosen lower returns, I'd have around $8.5 million in liquid assets. $8.5 million. I sat on my apartment floor for an hour, staring at the wall. Daniel and I signed the paperwork in March. The money arrived in my account 2 weeks later. I watched my banking app update and noticed an unusual balance. I was a billionaire before I reached 27, but no one in my family knew. I didn't purchase a mansion, I did not buy a sports vehicle. I hired a financial advisor and invested the most of it cautiously. I did purchase a wonderful condo in a reputable area that was fully equipped with new items. I purchased clothing that fits properly. I contributed to causes that I cared about. I lived comfortably, but not extravagantly. The secret felt fantastic. For the first time in my life, I had something completely mine, something my family couldn't take away, claim, or make about Olivia. My financial advisor had handed me a package of paperwork to peruse and sign. I grabbed them on my way out the door one morning and planned to glance through them around lunch. Instead, I was called to back-to-back meetings. I slipped the folder into my handbag, figuring I'd deal with it later. Among the documents was a recent portfolio statement that showed my whole balance. I absolutely forgot it was there until Olivia discovered it. Easter was coming, and Mom called to demand that I come to supper. I normally avoid holidays, but something compelled me to agree this time. Perhaps I was feeling charitable. Maybe I wanted to see things from a different angle. Maybe I just wanted to prove to myself that their opinions weren't important anymore. I drove to their home in my new automobile. Nothing showy, simply a dependable premium vehicle. I parked on the street and strolled up to my childhood home, carrying a store-bought pie because I wasn't much of a baker. Olivia answered the door. She looked me up and down, and I realized right away that my clothes were costly. Very costly. Her eyes narrowed slightly. "Claire," she explained. "You look different." "Thanks," I said, walking inside. "You look great too." The house was adorned for Easter with pastels everywhere. Adam was in the living room, watching basketball with Dad. Mom was in the kitchen finishing up dinner. Olivia's two children, Ella and Jacob, were running around high on chocolate. I hugged my parents and tried to relax into the usual awkwardness of family reunions. Dad inquired about my employment in the generic manner he normally did, not actually listening to my response. Mom admired my blouse and asked where I bought it. I said Nordstrom, and she seemed astonished. "Splurging a bit," Olivia murmured from behind me. "Did you get a raise?" "Something like that," I said. Dinner was the typical production. Olivia held court, discussing Jacob's soccer squad and Ella's dancing recital. Adam made periodic comments regarding his dealership's sales performance. Mom and Dad nodded, completely engrossed. I ate ham and scalloped potatoes and felt as if I were watching a performance I'd watched before. My phone rang after dinner, just as Mom was presenting the dessert. My financial advisor and I exchanged glances. I excused myself and went to the back porch to receive the call. It was nothing important, simply a query about some papers that needed to be signed. The chat lasted around 5 minutes. When I returned inside, the mood had shifted. Olivia stood in the hallway, holding my purse. My stomach sank. "You left this on the chair," she said, her voice weird. "Your wallet fell out when I picked it up. Things spilled everywhere." She held out a bank statement that had dropped from the folder. The equilibrium was obviously evident. $8.5 million plus change. The room became silent. Mom's pie server clattered on the dish. Dad's eyes expanded. Adam leaned forward. Olivia's face showed a variety of emotions. Shock, perplexity, and fury, followed by calculating. "Is this real?" Olivia insisted. I took the statement from her palm, folded it neatly, and returned it to my wallet. My heart pounded, but my voice remained firm. "It's none of your business." $8.5 million. Mom's voice sounded low. "Claire, where did you get $8.5 million? "I earned it," I explained simply. Olivia laughed, but it was not a pleasant sound. "You earned it. Doing what?" "You work in computers. Programmers don't make $8.5 million. "This one did," I answered. "My company was acquired. That's my share." The hush that ensued was deafening. I could see them all recalculating what they believed they knew about me. The thrift store girl was a billionaire. The family disappointment possessed more wealth than any of them. Dad discovered his voice first. "Claire, that's wonderful. Truly, why didn't you tell us?" "Because it's my business," was my reply. "And because I knew this would happen." "What would happen?" Mom inquired, her expression wounded. "This." I motioned to their faces. "You've never cared about my success before. Why would I share this with you now?" Olivia's horror was deteriorating into something worse. I could see the wheels spinning and the entitlement coming to the surface. "After everything this family has done for you." "Like what?" I interjected. "Please enlighten me. What has this family done for me?" "We raised you," Mom explained. "You raised both of us. You paid for Olivia's entire college education while I worked myself into exhaustion to afford community college. You've celebrated every one of Olivia's accomplishments while barely acknowledging mine. You allowed her to mock me for years, calling me thrift store girl like it was funny." "That was just teasing," Olivia explained defensively. "It was cruel," I said back. "And you all let it happen. You all participated." Adam, who had been quiet, now piped out. "Claire, Olivia is just surprised. We all are. This is a lot to process, but family is family, right? And family helps each other." There it was, the underlying source of the tension in the room. They wanted my money. Help each other. How? I inquired, already knowing the answer. Olivia rushed in, her voice taking on a plaintive tone that may have worked on me once. "Claire, Adam's dealership has been struggling. The economy, supply chain issues. You know how it is. We might lose the house. We have kids to think about. You don't have children. You don't have a husband. You don't have anyone depending on you. You have more money than you could ever spend." I gazed at her. This lady had made my upbringing unpleasant, criticized my challenges, and never inquired whether I was all right or needed help. And now, she wants my money. So, let me get this straight, I began carefully. You want me to just give you my money? The money I earned while you were posting selfies on Instagram? The money I made while you quit your job to play housewife? You want me to hand over what I worked for because Adam made bad business decisions? It's not like that, Adam argued. It's a loan. We'd pay you back. No, you wouldn't, I said bluntly. And even if you intended to, you couldn't. If you can't manage your own finances, why would I trust you with mine? Mom walked closer, her expression sincere. Claire, honey, please. Olivia is your sister. Those are your niece and nephew. You wouldn't let them lose their home, would you? How much are you asking for? I inquired, truly intrigued by their chutzpah. Olivia and Adam shared a glance. $450,000 would cover everything, Olivia remarked. The mortgage, the debts, enough to get us back on our feet. It's nothing to you. It's barely 5% of what you have, but for us, it would mean everything. I sensed a change inside me. The years of being disregarded, dismissed and mocked crystallized into perfect clarity. These individuals did not love me. They never had. I was just someone they kept around to boost their self-esteem. And now that I had something they desired, I was treated like family. No, I said. Olivia blinked. What? No, I'm not giving you money. Not $450,000. Not $500. Not 5 cents. Her cheeks turned crimson. Are you serious? After everything? After everything. What? I said, raising my voice. After you spent our entire childhood making me feel worthless. After you called me thrift store girl at every opportunity. After this family made it clear that I was worth less than you in every way that mattered. Now you want me to rescue you? We're family, Olivia said. Family supports each other, I remarked coldly. Family doesn't mock each other. Family doesn't play favorites. You want to know what family is? It's not this. It never was. Dad tried again, his voice taking on the authoritative tone he used when we were youngsters. Claire, you're being selfish. Your sister needs help and you have the means to provide it. This is what decent people do. Something inside of me cracked. I began laughing. I couldn't get past the ridiculousness of it all. They called me selfish after a lifetime of selfishness. It was too much. The laughter kept pouring out of me in waves. Decent people, I said between laughter. Where were decent people when I was eating ramen for dinner so I could afford textbooks? Where was family when I was working 2 jobs and going to school full-time? Where was support when I was building a career from nothing? We didn't realize you needed help, Mom answered faintly. You didn't ask, I said, my laughter fading. You never asked because you didn't care. As long as Olivia was happy and successful and posting pretty pictures, I could suffer in silence. I was just the thrift store girl. Remember? I wasn't worth your attention. Olivia's expression was contorted with hatred. Now you're really going to let us lose everything? You're going to let your niece and nephew be homeless because you're petty and bitter? You're not going to be homeless, I murmured, exhausted. You're being dramatic. Sell the house, downsize, live within your means like I had to. Figure it out like I had to. Work for it like I did. I have children, Olivia said. Then set a better example for them, I fired back. Show them that hard work matters. Show them that you can't just coast on charm and good looks. Show them that actions have consequences. Adam stood up, his expression harsh. You're making a big mistake. We're family. You're going to regret burning these bridges. I grabbed my handbag and hurried out the door. They pursued me, their voices overlapping, pleading, demanding, and threatening all at once. Olivia grabbed my arm and dug her claws in. Please, she pleaded. And for a moment, she appeared truly desperate. Claire, please. I'm sorry about the stupid nickname. I'm sorry I wasn't nice. I'm sorry. Okay. I'm sorry. Just help us, please. I gazed at her. Really stared at her. She was still lovely and nicely put together. But her eyes were wild. Her entire existence had been constructed on the generosity of others, and now it was disintegrating. I felt nothing. I'm sorry too, I answered gently. I'm sorry you're in this situation. I'm sorry you made choices that led here, but I'm not your bailout. I'm not your backup plan. I'm not the thrift store girl you can dismiss and ignore until you need something. I released my arm and went for the doorknob. Olivia's apologies immediately turned into fury. You're selfish, she hissed. After everything we've done for you, we gave you a home. We fed you. We raised you. And this is how you repay us. You did the bare minimum that parents are legally obligated to do. I responded. That doesn't entitle you to my money. Mom was crying now. Dad was red-faced and enraged. Adam was pacing. Olivia seemed to want to physically assault me. I opened the door. "Claire, if you walk out that door, you're not welcome back," Dad stated sternly. "If you choose money over family, you're no daughter of mine." I hesitated in the doorway and turned back to face them. "You chose Olivia over me. My entire life," you heard me say. "You chose appearances over substance. You chose comfort over fairness. You made your choice a long time ago. I'm just finally making mine." "You'll regret this," Olivia yelled after me. "When you're old and alone with nobody who loves you, you'll remember this moment. You'll remember that you chose money over your own family." I smiled at her, and she took a step back, so it had to be a bad one. "I'd rather be alone with $8.5 million than surrounded by people who only love me for what I can give them." "Get out!" Olivia yelled. "Get out and don't come back." "That's the plan," I explained. She surged forward, slamming the door in my face. I heard the lock click through the door. I could hear yelling, sobbing, and the pandemonium of a family disintegrating. I stood there for a time, expecting to feel anything. Regret, despair, or anything. Instead, I felt lighter. I walked to my car, got inside, and drove away from that house for the final time. My phone started ringing before I got to the freeway. Olivia. I refused the call. She called again, declined yet again. I banned her phone number. Then I blocked Mom's, Dad's, and Adam's. The stillness was amazing. Over the following few weeks, they tried everything. Mom wrote me emails imploring me to reconsider, stating Olivia was having breakdowns and the stress was impacting the kids. Dad's emails began reasonably, but became progressively irate when I failed to answer. Olivia generated new email addresses when I blocked the existing ones. Her communications alternate between apologies and threats. Adam tried everything to reach me, including LinkedIn messages and Facebook friend requests from false profiles. I disregarded it all. When Dad's lawyer wrote a threatening letter concerning alleged inheritance claims, my lawyer promptly issued a cease and desist letter, thereby closing that option. The harassing slowly lessened, then altogether. I learned via a mutual acquaintance that Olivia and Adam did lost their home. They moved into a rental in a less desirable area. Adam's dealership closed. Olivia had to find a real job, working in a mall's retail department. The gated neighborhood and the Instagram perfect existence had vanished. I felt a glimmer of pity, but it faded fast. They had made their selections. They had constructed their lives on unsustainable grounds. Their financial difficulties were not my job to resolve. It was entirely up to me how I spent my money. I provided scholarships for students from low-income families pursuing computer technology. I gave to organizations that support women in technology. I invested in businesses started by people that reminded me of myself, eager, brilliant, and underappreciated. When my grandmother moved into assisted living, I acquired her house. It was the one spot from my youth that brought back happy memories. I meticulously restored it, preserving all of the important details. I currently reside there, surrounded by objects. I pick stuff. I've earned things that are genuinely mine. I began dating someone I met via work. Another developer with their own success story. Someone who recognized the significance of hard labor since he experienced it firsthand. When I informed him about my family, he did not tell me to forgive them. He just grasped my hand and stated, "Some people are family, some are related. There is a distinction." 6 months after Easter, I received a wedding invitation. Olivia and Adam were renewing their vows as a PR stunt to demonstrate their enduring strength. The invitation was addressed to Claire Thompson and her companion. There was a handwritten message. "Despite everything, you're still my sister. I hope you'll come. We can talk." I threw it out without answering. A year after that Easter, Olivia sent me a message using a technique she had discovered that I hadn't blocked yet. It was lengthy, rambling, and full of apologies that seemed scripted rather than real. She discussed how difficult things had been, how much she had learnt, and how she now understood what I had been through. Finally, she asked if we might meet for coffee. She wrote that she did not want to ask for anything but rather to communicate an attempt. I reread it 3 times. I recalled the girl I'd been, yearning for morsels of acceptance from people who'd never seen me. I reflected on the woman I'd become, strong enough to walk away from those who harmed me. I erased the mail without replying. Some bridges are not worth repairing. Some doors, once slammed, should remain closed. Some family are best left behind. I learnt throughout treatment. Yes, I went to therapy because money allows me to afford treatment, that I had spent my entire life attempting to earn affection that would never be freely given. I had been performing in front of an uninterested crowd. When I stopped performing and wanting their approval, I became free. The money didn't help me. It provided me alternatives, stability, and comfort, but it did not heal my wounds. That task was more difficult and took longer. I had to unlearn the idea that I was worthless, deserved less, and should be grateful for scraps. I am enough. I always was. The thrift store girl who pieced together ensembles from discarded pieces was just as valued as the billionaire I eventually became. The only difference is that I now understand it. These days my life is tranquil. I work on projects that I find interesting. I travel whenever I want to. I have friends that choose me not out of blood or obligation, but because they truly enjoy who I am. My boyfriend thinks my thrift shop discoveries are beautiful, who like hearing stories about the antique leather jacket that I still have hanging in my closet. I created a life that is mine. Nobody can belittle, disparage, or take credit for it. When I look in the mirror, I see someone who has endured, worked, and refused to let others to determine her value. Sometimes I wonder if my family remembers that Easter supper, if they could relive the moment they found I was wealthy and insisted I share it. Most likely, they will not comprehend why I laughed in their faces and went away. People like these seldom comprehend. They will constantly feel entitled to what others have earned. They will always believe that family means claiming each other's achievement without contributing to it. But occasionally, late at night, when I'm in the house that I genuinely own, I recall standing at that doorway with Olivia shouting at me, ordering me to go. I recall the sound of the door slamming in my face, and the finality of the lock clicking into place. I can recall how it felt to walk away. And I grin because they actually did me a favor. They relieved me of the last remaining duty I felt toward them. They revealed their true selves to me one final time. They slammed the door on a connection I had been striving to keep because of guilt and habit. I walked away feeling lighter than I had ever felt. The thrift store girl became a billionaire. The family's disappointment became more successful than they could have dreamed. The girl they passed over became someone they couldn't ignore. And when they finally saw me, wanted something from me, and required what I made, I declined. Nobody warns you about the power of stepping away, the power to choose oneself. The strength of refusing to put yourself on fire in order to keep others warm who would never do the same for you. I do not regret it. Not for 1 second. Not while I am laying in bed in my lovely house. Not when I'm sponsoring scholarships for females, as I was. Not when I'm living the life I choose rather than the one chosen for me. Olivia was correct about one thing though. It's not how she intended it. I am occasionally alone, yet I am not lonely. There is a distinction. Loneliness is being surrounded by people who do not notice you. Being alone allows you to breathe without having to apologize for taking up space. I'd rather have alone than to be unloved. The last time I considered reaching out was on my birthday last year. I awoke to messages from friends, my boyfriend and others who decided to be in my life. I reflected on how different it was from previous birthdays, when my family would give me practical presents, while Olivia received jewels and trips. I considered calling briefly to see if anything had changed. Then I remembered Olivia's expression when she saw my bank account, the calculating in her eyes, and how quickly affection transformed into demands. I prepared pancakes instead and treated myself to a spa day. Some individuals spend their entire lives seeking approval from people who never offer it. Some people injure themselves attempting to fit into areas that were never intended for them. Some people accept crumbs and call them love. I did this for 26 years. Now I live differently. I now know better. Now I understand that stepping away does not mean giving up. It is growing up. My relatives used to nickname me, the thrift store girl, as an insult. They assumed that secondhand meant second-rate. They believed that bargain hunting meant cheap living. They believed I was inferior to them because I lacked what they have. They were incorrect about everything. The thrift shop girl learned to recognize value where others saw garbage. She learned to make damaged things beautiful. She discovered that worth is not decided by price tags, family acceptance, or Instagram likes. She learned to gamble on herself, and won. So, no, I will not reconcile with my family. I will not support Olivia's lifestyle or serve as the family ATM. I will not attend holidays, pretend everything is normal, or accept half-hearted apologies intended to manipulate rather than heal. I'll be here in my house, living my life and making my decisions. I'll be the thrift store girl who became a billionaire and discovered that some of life's finest things cannot be purchased, such as self-esteem, real connections, and the tranquility that comes from finally putting yourself first. They slammed the door in my face, assuming it was punishment. It was freedom.